Hello, my name is Chris Leslie. I am a professional data designer who also draws single panel comics. I started this video series because the thing that gets me most inspired to draw cartoons is having casual conversations with evaluators, researchers, data designers, and all sorts of creative professionals. In today's conversation, I chat with Nick Visscher, who is an evaluator and also the creator of the Spotlight Impact Data Design YouTube channel. Among other things, we talk about YouTube, data design, and PowerPoint, and if it makes sense to just keep your side hustle as a side hustle. It was a fun conversation that inspired a set of 8 new comics, which you'll see appear throughout the video. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. It certainly means a lot to me. And after you're done watching, check out the notes where you'll find a link to where you can see and download full versions of all the comics I've created and shared today.
What what got you started in YouTube? Like at the time right now you're full-time employed again, right? Is that
I'm a program evaluator at Woodland Park Zoo here in Seattle. And I've been an evaluator in museums and aquariums that's really been my kind of professional life for the last bit. But when I was working for university, one of my friends turned me on to Stephanie's blog. And that must have been 2012 or 2013-ish. And so it was really that it was her first like dot plot blog post that like I didn't even know. I never even really used the term data viz, but looking at that post and then I like did it in Excel, followed along the instruction. And that was like the first light bulb of just, oh my gosh, like you can do so much by just tweaking things behind the scenes. I don't have to use this bar chart that I was using all the time. And so that was just like really cool. And I think doing that, like that just made me feel like, oh, you feel powerful. I think you know how to do something. Like you felt like it was very cool. And it was like, so there was this like immediate feedback that was so great about that really just turned me on to that sort of world of data viz in that way. And I still don't. And so I just kept on going with that and then started following Anne along the way and all the database folks and you and everybody who's been that AEA sort of world. Cause I wasn't really involved in AEA, but I've been a longtime member and lurker around. And yeah, I just started doing that. And then I've always worked in nonprofits. And so I've always had side hustles and side jobs and things like that. And so I started doing that as a little bit of a side hustle too. And very lucky to have some folks hire me along the way. But yeah, so just still did that. And then, so it's just still something on the side. And I'm like constantly writing this, should I want to do that full time? And like when I moved here, I didn't have a job for about, I don't know, 6 months or so. Like I did that, but I wouldn't say I really tried full force to do it. But I also think I learned I really didn't like it. I really like being in an office with other people. So it might just be one of those things where it's like cool for a side hustle and maybe not like a full-time thing. But with YouTubing, like I was just always so inspired by Anne and her YouTube. Like I was just always watching her YouTubing. Like she was really probably one of the first ones to YouTube in the space, at least that I found. And she was always like, she reached out to me once because she saw me post a thing about a report that I was making in PowerPoint. And she was like, can you do a guest post for me about your tips for making reports in PowerPoint? And I thought that was so stupid because I was like, who's gonna want to read that? Or I just figured everybody did it. I didn't know it was like noteworthy. But that blog post was really just what inspired me. I was like, oh, like maybe people really do that. And like working with people who would constantly ask me, like, I know there's so many ways to do this, but how do you make a bar chart in Excel? And I'm like, there's kind of one way to do it. And then you can do all this other stuff. So it just made me realize like, oh, I guess this content is like what people would consume. So yeah, and then it's just been fun. And then I started to YouTube just to remind myself of new things I was learning because I didn't really want to, I was always going back to the same post. So I've revisited my own videos several times. So I'm like, how do I do that again? I forgot how. I remember I did that one time. But then I just started doing it a little bit more here and there. And it's more fun. I feel like when it's not fun anymore, then maybe I won't do it. But then it became just, oh, like I knew I could, I didn't think like a channel would ever get monetized. But once I started getting a few more subscribers, I'm like, oh, well, if it keeps on going up, I could get to 1,000 and just meet this thing. So then it just became that was like my goal, my next goal. And I was just like, okay, how many thousands of times can I post the same video on social media for people to subscribe? And like, how many times can I beg? But then that was like the most exciting moment to reach that threshold. I was like, wow, you can really do it. And I can make enough money to buy some coffee here and there. In
Exactly.
Seattle, it's expensive.
Yeah. But good though, right?
Yeah.
I think is there anything that people really struggle with that surprises you? Like things that or like a video that you've done that's done really well and was surprising.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say these videos are done really well, but it is some of my most viewed videos are like the shortest and simplest of things to do in PowerPoint, like using the alignment tools to align a bunch of objects along the same axis. And or using a shortcut, a keyboard shortcut D to duplicate an object. And like those types of things. So that's also something that I need to think about, I think, and do more of, because that is the content that keeps getting viewed. But the content that I'm posting more are the things that I'm trying to do in my work and maybe are like a little too specific or too complicated for anyone to really want to do that anyway. So it's just like the very simple things that I take for granted, but like my executive team doesn't know how to save a PowerPoint file as a PDF. Like that, those kinds of things are things that I always think are obvious, but then time and time again, I learn like, oh, they're not. Like people are surprised by those types of things. So yeah, I think my highest viewed video right now is it's just how to select multiple objects on a slide by clicking and dragging across the page. But I love that trick, and that's one of the reasons I like using PowerPoint, because you can't do that in Word. Or of course hold shift. But yeah, so that's always just shocking.
Is the hold shift part in the video, or is it only flick and drag?
I have to go back. I don't know if I gave 2 ways. I'll probably have to do another. I'll have to do it.
Another way.
Here's the other way to do it. Yeah. That was the other thing that I've been learning along this way, and like following other YouTubers and people who talk about YouTube, is like they talk about mining content, like mining that don't be just because you posted a video about how to duplicate an object 3 months ago doesn't mean you can't post. If it did well, do another video about duplicating an object and maybe find a different spin or something like that. It's the same, essentially it's the same content, but it keeps on doing well. And if you stop posting, I think those same videos eventually will plateau and stop. YouTube will stop recommending those or whatever. So I think I just have to remember that just because I posted something once doesn't mean I can't post about it again or shouldn't post about it again.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's definitely interesting.
I don't know. I think the algorithm is mysterious, ever moving target. I don't want to spend that much time trying to figure it out, because I don't think I will be able to, and I don't think anybody will. So
honestly, I've seen people talking about it too, where they're like, it struck them. They were talking to like somebody at YouTube, and the way that the person at YouTube was talking about the algorithm, it's like, they don't really know. They're like, the algorithm is at a point with machine learning where they don't necessarily know why it's doing something. They have theories about how it works, and they tweak it and they change it little bits here and there, but they don't have full control. It's just a mind of its own.
Yeah, mind of its own. Yeah, that's just insane. Think about it.
Let's see. Wait. Okay, cartoons. What advice I found over time that the things that make the best cartoons are the challenges that people face, the kind of unexpected things, problems, struggles. These kind of things make better cartoons than like some of the YouTube videos you were talking about. It's really about answers. A lot of the ones that you and I develop, that I'm starting to develop in, where it's here's how you do a thing, and you show people how to do a thing. But like with the cartoons that are successful, it's usually about like an opening in terms of here's a question or a challenge or a struggle. And that's what makes something into a good cartoon. And my question for you then is looking at like your own work and your own life and kind of the stuff that you do in a day to day in terms of like your evaluation day job and your YouTube stuff. Like, what's the biggest challenge for you? Your struggle, your day to day struggle?
I think in terms of there is the push when doing YouTube, doing my day job, there is a constant struggle of what do I there is a constant struggle of what should I want to do one over the other. So I'm always just asking myself that. And if I follow a lot of people online, make me feel like my side hustle, I should want that to be my full-time thing. And I don't know, do I feel like inadequate if I'm just staying in the side hustle space? I think also for me, like I still have not really, I have a lot of self training that I've sought out and things like that in terms of design, but I don't know if it's necessarily imposter syndrome, but it's just like what is my identity like professionally? Can I call myself a designer just because a few people have paid me to do some design work? And also, I never have touched Adobe Creative Suite in my life, so I feel like totally inadequate as a designer that I'm only working in Microsoft stuff, Microsoft products. And that's a hurdle, I think. I know that obviously it's probably a hurdle that I could get over if I just spend the time to learn those things. And I know once I probably get into it, I could work in InDesign and Illustrator and stuff like that. And it probably would be just fine. But when I've looked for full-time, like regular employment in the design space and like presentation design and other database design jobs, Adobe Creative Suite is a pretty big factor, is a pretty big requirement. And I'm just like, oh, I don't really use any of those. So that stopped that sort of very tactical, my limitations, like software wise, I think have maybe held me back. So I guess maybe the bigger struggle is just like, which software should I be like trying to focus on and learn? And I like the advice of picking one and going very deep in that, which I try to do in just Microsoft products that I've always had access to. And I really enjoy doing that. But at what point do I need to start branching out and doing something a little bit? I think I'm wondering if I'm at the point where I should do that, or am I going to be left behind, I guess, am I already? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. How does one form an identity? A bigger existential question.
I like the idea, like you shifted in that conversation, didn't really have design expertise. And then the design expertise shifted into, am I a designer, to have I ever used Creative Cloud? And it's as like a stand-in of, okay, are you a designer? Have you used Creative Cloud? If you haven't used Creative Cloud, then clearly you're not a designer. But why? Like, why does the tool set mean that much? Whereas if you look at trends and people using software and stuff, it's still Excel. If I want a popular post or something, I'd be better off talking about Excel than anything else. But it's also, okay, even though it can reach more people, does that mean it's better content? Or is it better to focus on the thing that only a few people will want, but you're the only person serving those few people when you talk about that specific thing you've dealt with? So in short, I asked you a question because it created some interesting comments, but also, yeah, you should definitely call yourself a designer and be happy to do. I will say that front as somebody who has
I'll do it now.
You can call yourself a designer now, Nick. You can feel confident calling yourself a designer. I hereby give you permission. I'll send you a certificate in the mail.
Oh, yes.
And say Nick is a designer.
And on that thing, something that I always think about, it's probably not software related, but what is it that I really enjoy about of design work and the design process? And I think it comes back to that learning that dot plot the first time from Stephanie's blog. Like I love being able to change something from good to great or bad to good. But I listen to the presentation podcasts, and it's three Microsoft MVPs. And they always have fun conversation, but they have they use this term called, they say slide jockey. And it's like a pejorative They always like the Seinfeld thing. They're always like, but not that there's anything wrong with that. You could be a very effective slide designer, very good slide makeovers and things like that. But maybe that doesn't make you a presentation designer because you're not involved in maybe the crafting of the narrative or some of those bigger high level sort of story aspects. And I think I like being a slide jockey sometimes. I love when somebody sends me a terrible PowerPoint slide and asks me to make it better. So that's another kind of thing of this, am I a designer? I really love doing that part of the design, but the whole, the 30,000-foot view, the discovery process with a potential client, those kinds of things are not my most favorite things to do. I just wish that everybody would just send me their terrible slides and I could redesign. So that's another sort of thing about often.
I talk about this a lot with my design students and that kind of thing, is that like with report writing or presentation design, any of it, with report writing isn't writing. It's writing, it's designing, and it's illustrating. And it's those three things, and you should really bounce back and forth. I feel like that slide jockey thing, I feel like that's like those slides, improving those slides is really that illustration spot. Like it's part design, but it's really illustration. And a lot of people really struggle with illustration just because it's something that we're not really taught over time, like how to illustrate. So I don't know, maybe it's just that latent illustration skill that you have or that eye for it. But it's interesting though. What about, do you have any good pieces of advice? I'll let you go. I know I'm running over, but what's your favorite advice to give to people who are interested in upping their design skills or their data design skills or their PowerPoint decks or whatever? Do you have any go-to advice?
Oftentimes when people come to me and ask me, really the question that I get most often from people is just, or that I work with or have worked with is, do you have a good PowerPoint template for this or that? And my response is always, no, but you can do your own. It's not complicated. It's not difficult to do. Let's do some very simple things on your slide to make them very effective. So I think keeping things simple I think a lot of times people think that design means they have to be really flowery or they have to know how to illustrate or they have to know how to do something. But I'm just like, wipe everything off your slide and then put a box on the top. Put a header on the top and then put a footer on the bottom, and then your slide, you're going to start seeing some things that look really nice for your purpose. So I think my advice is always just the best PowerPoint template for you is the one that you can make yourself. And here's a few little designs you can do that you might not think of, but will make your slide kind of pop.
Like it. Love it, Nick. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
Yeah, it was so fun. It was nice. Yeah, I'm glad we got a chance to chat, and I'll continue to like, subscribe, and follow to all of your YouTube videos. I'm sharing them so that we get you to
I really
1,000.
appreciate it, Nick. I really do appreciate it. And
Could be my new mission.
I'm happy with that. That's great. I appreciate your videos. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. And it's been nice connecting. So let's do it again.
But
otherwise, yeah. Have a nice week and we'll connect soon.
Cool. You too. Bye, Chris.
All right. Bye, Nick.